Alright, we're gonna go close to the face because it's raining out and whatnot. But I was in a sauna today, just chilling, enjoying the heat. Older gentleman came in, we started talking, and we started talking about drugs. Just, different things about it, but kind of started going through my experiences and what I've learned from that. And I said something that I guess stuck out some because we talked about it further. That's why I'm talking about it now. But I said that I think drugs are for old people, that drugs aren't for young people to consume. It's actually for old people. And kind of my reasoning behind that is that these people have lived their life. You're 67, whatever, 65 plus, we'll say. You've lived your life, you've contributed to society, you've done all the kind of tunnel vision tasks. You probably had a family, most likely, raised a family. But now you get to the point where you might be retired, you're taking a step back from work, and there's not much to do, so you find stuff to do, and most of the things they find to do are physical. You either volunteer, you go to the gym, socialize, go get a coffee at the convenience store, gas station, or whatever, talk to whatever. That's all good and whatnot, and that's fine. But I don't think that you're necessarily serving your role in society by just doing that. And I'll elaborate. I think historically, the elder, these people have received the wisdom through life experiences and whatnot, and then were able to pass that along to younger generations while they had more time and whatnot. So I think drugs can be a useful tool for raising your awareness and, really diving into different topics and thinking about different things, I'm not sure if you've ever done drugs, but sometimes you have some crazy conversations, crazy thoughts, and it can be good to explore those just to get a better understanding of the world and whatever. But I think you start to run into problems when young people are doing these drugs and consuming them from a young age, say teenage years, to mid to late 20s, we'll say. I think that's probably the heaviest you go, or we'll say college age. So during this time, you're doing drugs and you're enjoying it, and you're mostly using them for pleasure. You're mostly using them to get high and do whatever and feel good or whatever, whatever reason. But that can be a negative, and I think that's what we're kind of seeing in society now, is where a lot of young people have higher awareness than older generations, so they aren't doing things that the older generations did. For example, work a job that they hate for a boss that they don't like, for a little bit more money that doesn't really make a difference. So little things like that, where in the past you were able to build a society and build an economy based on ignorance and youthfulness and kind of there's the way things go. But now they say there's been a global awakening, I guess, since the internet, which I guess you can kind of correlate those two things. But younger people aren't willing to do the things that older generations did, or simply put, younger people aren't really willing to fulfill their role in society that they historically fulfilled, which was traditionally working outrageous hours while you're young in order to build that foundation to relax while you're older. Where people are seeing it now as we're gonna marathon. Just keep going, just relax, you know. The money isn't real much of a difference when it's only a couple bucks hourly. You know, you're still getting by. You can still have a good life and enjoy it. So people aren't striving for more as they much did, and I think part of the reason is because of the mass introduction of marijuana, high potency in marijuana throughout the years. Believe it or not, you aren't as motivated while you are high or while THC is in your system than while you're sober. And that's pretty much a fact. Yeah, there are outliers, obviously, but these drugs, especially in men, kill that drive that is needed in a society and that is needed to get where you want. See, when you think short term, when you're on drugs and you're thinking short term, because that's what typically happens when you're on drugs, you're only really thinking short term about the next time you're doing drugs or the next time, etc. You're not as inclined to look down to while you're 80, down the path to while you're 80, while you're 60, while you're 40, etc. 5 years, whatever. You feel the moment, you feel the present, and while that can be a good thing to be in the moment and be in the present, it's not necessarily sustainable. And that's where we run into problems as a society. And that's where you have people, Kevin O'Leary, going on his platforms, bad-mouthing, quiet quitting, and things like that. I mean, you can look at it around the world, especially you see it prominently in a lot of Asian countries, China, Japan, South Korea, the lying flat movements and they also happen in America, but they have the name lying flat, where people have that awareness now that, especially in China, do I want to be a slave and work in a factory 90 hours a week, 6 days a week for the rest of my life in order to just get by? Or work a lesser job, essentially be a loser, but at least you'll have control of your life and you'll be able to dictate your happiness and take in some regard. So basically you're able to live a more low-key life. And this kind of also dives into the diet. I mean, you don't see this much in America, but grass-eating men, herbivore men. This is prominent in Japan and all these other Asian countries. You change your diet, so you obviously, since United States came to those places, they introduced meat and whatnot, and that changed their society as a whole, more ego-driven, more money, family, war, that type stuff. But you kind of remove some of those. You remove the war from Japan. You move whatever nutrition in like whatever poor countries. It changes your society. Essentially, what I'm saying. So you're seeing more and more young men changing their lifestyle to not fit the societal narrative, which in this case is not reaching your highest potential or your perceived highest potential in a workplace or in schooling and education, as well as changes in your diet and exercise and social interactions. So you're seeing a shift where people are taking a step back from the ego-driven society where we've kind of lived in since World War II. I mean, that's the whole capitalism argument, that you're working for a surplus. That's essentially what capitalism is. That there is now a need for a surplus of production and materials and money and everything that goes along with that. So now people all across the world, different socioeconomic levels and race, gender, all that stuff. I mean, gender is interesting, but I mean, you're primarily seeing it in men. You're seeing the feminization of men and the masculinization of women. Which is also interesting because it's not conducive to a capitalistic society. Ideally you need everybody working and earning money and blah blah blah, all that good stuff. But we're kind of straying away from, I mean, everybody knows this, we're straying away from traditional gender roles and et cetera, et cetera. And while many people believe this is the first time this has ever happened in the history and that this is a glorious achievement for everybody, simply you're ignorant to the fact that this has been a reoccurring theme throughout forever with humanity, going back to the Greeks, the Romans, whatever. It always gets to a point where there's no need for men to be masculine and women to be feminine. So then gender roles start to swap, and then things get weird, as we are seeing today. People are more educated than ever, supposedly. People, whatever. So you have more options. You're able to do more things, and with those options, you can live a destructive lifestyle to yourself, according to society. So how do you fix that? You know, traditionally, it's been tough. There's different means. There's war, there's famine, there's, I don't know. There's just, basically it comes down to the destruction, or there has to be the reemergence of chaos into that society in order for men and women to grab their traditional gender roles again and live that lifestyle. So that's when it starts to get a little sketch, because you're like, all right, well, that's starting to happen now. It's been happening over the last 20 years or whatever. Kind of, what's the solution? If you're looking at it as a handler or whatever, how do we fix the problems in gender? So you basically give people a reason. And what's the reason? The reason's war. As we see today with Russia and the United States and China, is that all these countries are in desperate need of a war to, for one, reboot their economy, reboot their gender roles, and just kind of essentially reboot your society as a whole, kind of get back on track, like get rid of all the bullshit that was weighing you down, and then keep going for another 20, 30 years until the cycle repeats, or however long it takes. So yeah, everybody has different reasons for war. Russia's mostly, I mean, we'll say broadly, mostly it's for everybody. It's aging population, too young demographic, and that's what war does. That you reboot the population growth, you reboot the economy, and you reboot gender roles essentially. And I'm sure I'm missing some others, but this is a little bit of an impromptu video. So yeah, be careful out there, because not everybody's looking in for your best interest. And I think it's important to remember that as you live your life. I think it's up to you. I think only you can really know what's for you and what's not for you. And that takes a lot of introspection. So good luck. I'm sure we'll speak again soon.